Hi, and welcome back to my channel. This video is all about the upcoming Master Skill 2, the Divine Impact Master Skill Path. And in this video, I will only show a PvE related build setup for a Divine Impact build, and I will also do a damage comparison between weapons that can be used for a Divine Impact build and basic equipment gear sets, and find out which will work best and produce a better damage overall output on the PvE scenarios. So without further ado, let's begin. First off, let's start by being familiar about the priority stats for a solid Divine Impact build, starting with the Ignore Physical Defense. The Divine Impact skill is a burst-type physical skill, and the Ignore Physical Defense stat plays a great role on making your Divine Impact skill damage output become more effective against tough and high physical defense targets. For PvE scenarios, you should have at least a 120% minimum Ignore Defense stat, a 140% plus for mid-tier targets, and up to 175% Ignore Defense stat when dealing with the high-tier and legend difficulty targets. Next, the Physical Damage Increase, or the PDI stat. This stat will also further penetrate the physical damage reductions of the targets. Having around 60% plus as minimal is already enough, and 90% plus when dealing with the high-tier targets, and a 120% plus PDI stat for a legend difficulty level targets. The Physical Attack stat and Damage stat. You should have a minimal of 12,000 physical attack stat and above is minimal, and the higher the better. For the Damage stat, you should have a 100% plus as minimum, and higher than 140% plus would be better when you are dealing against legend difficulty targets. The Penetration stat. We should have at least a 30% penetration stat to further increase our overall physical damage output against mid-tier targets, and a minimum of 60% plus penetration stat against high-tier targets, such as legend difficulty targets. And lastly, the Skill Damage Increase stat. Although it's quite hard to pump up this stat since we only had few sources for the Skill Damage Increase stat, but still we need at least a minimum of 15% plus Skill Damage Increase stat when dealing against mid-tier targets, and a 35% plus when dealing a high-tier targets on PvE scenarios. Now let's proceed to the damage comparison between weapons and gear sets. Now my equipments are not complete, and I still lack some important core gears for a solid Divine Impact build, and although the developers did provide us a 2.7 billion zennies on beta test server, it is still quite hard to acquire the needed gears since there's no available gears and mats on Exchange Shop. But anyway, we can still picture out the idea, even with my low quality and incomplete gears. First damage test will be the Agent Katar Star weapon, and this weapon will not produce the highest Divine Impact damage output, as this weapon is designed to be used with a solid critical auto attack build GX. But still let us see the damage difference, even when using the Agent Katar weapon. Next, the Sandstorm Star Dagger weapon. The Sandstorm Star Dagger is also good to be used for a Divine Impact build on PvE scenarios, as this weapon is packed with Ignore Physical Defense stat and a great amount of damage to large-size monsters. At Refine level plus 12, the Sandstorm provides a plus 40% damage to large-size monster, and also provides a plus 12% Ignore Physical Defense stat. Next, the Demon Knife Dagger weapon. The Demon Knife Dagger provides a double damage effect, although the normal damage output of this weapon is quite lower than other available weapons. It can still inflict a higher damage output that is more better than the other weapon's overall damage output. But still, the double damage chance is quite too low, as at Refine level plus 10, it only provides a 20% chance of triggering the double damage effect when performing either a normal or a skill type attack, and on top of that, the user's physical and magical defense is reduced by 50%, which is quite a disadvantage since it'll make you become more squishy. And lastly, the Loki's Nail Star Katar weapon. The Loki's Nail Katar weapon is meant to be the best weapon for a solid Divine Impact build, as this weapon provides a great amount of Cross Reaper Slasher final damage modifier boost, and this weapon is also packed with physical damage increase stat. At Refine level plus 10, it provides a plus 11% physical damage increase stat and a plus 10% Cross Reaper Slasher damage boost. And also, when paired with the Windrunner Cape Garment gear, it also provide a plus 5% additional Cross Reaper Slasher damage boost. And while also equipped with the Windrunner Cape Garment gear, it also provide a plus 2% additional physical damage increase stat. And starting at Refine level plus 5, it also provides a CRS damage boost plus 1% per Refine level. And based on the damage test result, the Loki's Nail Star Katar weapon proves to be the best weapon for a solid Divine Impact build, as it inflicted the highest and consistent Divine Impact damage output, and although the Demon Knife had inflicted a higher damage output than the Loki's Nail Star weapon when its double damage effect proc, the consistency of the Loki's Nail Star weapon is still far more better than the Demon Knife's low chance double damage effect. Now, let's also do a cross-impact skill damage test comparison between these weapons and see if which weapon can inflict the highest cross-impact damage output while we are on a Divine Impact Master skill build path. And, as what we can see here, again, the plus 10 Loki's Nails star weapon also had topped the cross-impact damage test comparison, and the supposed best weapon for a sonic blow build, and even packed with a higher ignore def and a decent amount of large-sized damage modifier, is still being bested by the Loki's Nail Katar weapon. Now, to explain a bit of why this happened. GX Katar builds had a passive skills that further enhanced their physical attack stats and physical damage increase stats. Now, to explain a bit of why this happened. Katar builds had a passive skills that further enhanced their physical attack stats and physical damage increase stats. And that explains why a mere plus 10 Loki's Nail star weapon had bested the plus 12 Sandstorm dagger weapon on a cross-impact skill damage test comparison. And that's all of it for this video, and thank you for watching.